That old recipe book is a fire hazard, Catherine. Brenda's voice sliced through my kitchen like a knife through warm butter. All those yellowed pages and grease stains, one spark from the stove, and this whole place goes up in flames. I stood at my counter kneading bread dough, the same wooden counter where I'd prepared thousands of family meals. My grandmother's recipe book sat open to her famous apple pie recipe, the pages worn soft from decades of loving use. Brenda snatched the book from the counter, holding it like contaminated evidence. Look at these oil stains, these ancient newspaper clippings. This is basically kindling, waiting for an accident. That book has every recipe our family has used for 3 generations, I said quietly, continuing to work the dough with practiced hands that had followed those instructions for 46 years. That's exactly the problem, Brenda shot back. 46-year-old paper, soaked with cooking grease, stored next to an open flame. It's an insurance claim, waiting to happen. My son Daniel sat at the breakfast table, scrolling through his phone, saying nothing to defend the book that had taught him his first cooking lesson. In this very kitchen, Brenda continued flipping pages, like a fire inspector, looking for violation. These handwritten notes are barely legible anymore. Why not just type everything into your computer? Much safer storage, as if my grandmother's careful penmanship could be replaced by sterile digital files that held no warmth or personal connection. Daniel finally looked up, but not in my defense. Maybe Mom could scan the important recipe, keep digital copies, get rid of this old paper, get rid of 46 years of kitchen wisdom and family memory, reduced to disposal problem that needed solving. My lace tablecloth covered the dining room table, another item Brenda had criticized last week as outdated and impractical for modern living. Silence isn't surrender, it's strength gathering its breath. I'm Catherine. I'm 71 years old. I live in Millbrook, Wisconsin. This recipe book has guided every holiday meal, every birthday cake, every Sunday dinner I've cooked for family since Daniel was born, following these same time-tested instructions. Today my daughter-in-law called my most treasured cooking companion a fire hazard that threatened our home, while I prepared bread using my grandmother's recipe in the kitchen where every family tradition began. But what Brenda doesn't know is this. My grandmother didn't just write down recipes, she tucked family secrets between those yellowed pages. That will change everything about Brenda's assumption. If you've ever felt overlooked in your own home, you'll understand why this moment stayed with me. This kitchen on Pine Street has been my classroom for 46 years of family cooking. Every holiday feast, every comfort meal during difficult times has been created following my grandmother's careful instructions. The afternoon light streams through my kitchen window, just like it did when I was 25 and learning to make my first Thanksgiving dinner with shaking hands and my grandmother, patient guidance, written in fading ink. I can smell the lingering scents of yesterday's cinnamon rolls mixed with today's bread dough, the same smells that welcomed Daniel home from school every afternoon for 18 years of growing up. My lace tablecloth waits in the dining room, ready for tonight's family dinner, where Daniel will eat the same meatloaf his father loved, made exactly according to the recipe my grandmother perfected decades ago. The kitchen still echoes with memories of Daniel's first cooking attempt, standing on a step stool, stirring cookie batter, while I read instructions from pages he could barely see, but trusted completely. Some truths arrive quietly but change everything. After Robert died 4 years ago, this recipe book became my daily companion, a connection to all the women who had cooked before me, who had fed their families with love and careful attention. Brenda sees only potential danger in aged paper and accumulated stains. She doesn't understand that some books hold more than instruction. They hold family history, written in margins and tucked between pages. She wants me to modernize my entire kitchen, replace handwritten wisdom with digital efficiency that fits her vision of safe and sterile cooking environment without fire hazards. Daniel inherited his father's practical nature, but not Robert's appreciation for family tradition and time-tested methods. He sees potential problem where his father saw legacy worth preserving. The suggestions started gently, like smoke before flames. Brenda would comment on my dangerous cooking habits during her weekly kitchen inspections. All this paper near open flames makes me nervous. Maybe you should consider electric appliances only, much safer for someone your age, she'd point out. Modern alternatives Those cooking apps have every recipe you could imagine, with built-in timers and safety features. Built-in safety features. As if I hadn't been cooking safely for 46 years, using the same methods my grandmother taught me, without a single kitchen fire. Digital storage eliminates fire risk completely, she'd continue. No more yellowed paper or grease-stained pages. Everything clean and organized on your tablet. Clean and organized, missing the point entirely that cooking isn't just about following directions, it's about connecting with generations of women who stirred the same pots and shared the same love. Dignity whispers what anger cannot. The real pressure began when she started bringing modern cookbooks with glossy photographs. Look at these updated versions of classic recipes, much safer than your grandmother's old-fashioned methods. She'd flip through pages, showing me simplified cooking, designed for busy lifestyles that didn't require handwritten notes or personal modification, learned through experience. We could organize your entire kitchen, she'd suggest. Get rid of fire hazard, install modern safety equipment, make everything more efficient for someone your age, someone my age, as if turning 71 had made me incapable of safe cooking practices that I'd mastered decades before she was even born. Daniel nodded along with her suggestions, not from conviction, but from exhaustion, with topics that created tension every time we gathered as family. A home remembers the hands that built it. Brenda began questioning my cooking schedule. Do you really need to bake bread every single week? Wouldn't store-bought be safer and easier for someone living alone? Store-bought bread instead of the weekly ritual that connected to my grandmother's kitchen, where love was kneaded into every loaf with patient hands. She suggested I donate my excess cookbooks. There are culinary schools that would appreciate these vintage collections for historical reference, as if my daily cooking companion was museum piece rather than living document that guided every meal I prepared with love. Spring brought fresh concern about my hazardous kitchen practice. Brenda's visits became focused on eliminating what she called unnecessary fire risk. She'd arrive with catalogs featuring modern cooking equipment. Today we upgrade your dangerous paper storage to digital recipe management, much safer overall. Dangerous paper storage, a recipe book that sat safely on my counter for 46 years without causing a single safety incident or kitchen emergency. These old books are tinderboxes, she'd insist. One grease fire and everything goes up. What if you couldn't escape in time? Escape in time from a kitchen I'd navigated safely through decades of Thanksgiving preparations, holiday baking marathons, and daily meal preparation without ever feeling endangered or threatened. She measured my counter space like a fire inspector, planning safety improvements. This whole area could be reorganized around fire prevention rather than sentimental attachment. Sentimental attachment to the book that had guided every successful meal, every family celebration, every quiet dinner that brought us together. Around this table, some objects hold memories, not value. I started noticing Brenda's real agenda behind this safety camp. She seemed more interested in eliminating reminders of family tradition than actual fire prevention. My grandmother's recipe book contained more than cooking instruction. It held family information tucked between pages, financial records, property details, important documents that Brenda had never bothered to discover, including papers that would change her assumption about my circumstances and the book's true value beyond its obvious cooking purposes. The yellowed pages held secrets beyond recipes, notes that document more than ingredient lists, information that preserved family history in ways only I had understood and carefully protected. I wasn't angry anymore. I was awake. Brenda thought she was protecting me from fire hazards and kitchen accident that threatened my safety in ways I was too old to recognize or prevent properly. She had no idea what this recipe book actually contained. Between its worn pages, no understanding of the careful documentation my grandmother had hidden in plain sight. The confrontation came on a warm May afternoon. Brenda arrived with Daniel and business cards from fire safety inspectors for professional assessment of your kitchens. Safety compliant, as if my 46 years of successful cooking required outside validation from strangers who'd never tasted my grandmother's apple pie or understood its significance. "Mom, we need to discuss your living situation," Daniel said, his voice gentle but firm. "This kitchen has too many fire hazards for someone your age cooking alone." Fire hazard. As if my 71 years had suddenly made me careless with flame, despite decades of safe cooking practices and careful kitchen management. These senior communities have beautiful kitchenettes, Brenda added, fire-safe cooking areas you wouldn't need to maintain dangerous paper collections or open-flame appliances. Kitchenettes, tiny cooking spaces without room for bread making, holiday preparations, or the kind of family cooking that required space and time and love. "What about my recipe book?" I asked. "My grandmother's instructions? The family meals I still want to prepare?" "You could keep a few favorite cards," Daniel said. "The safest recipe for small appliances. Everything else should probably go to someone who'd actually use them." A few favorite cards, 46 years of collected wisdom, reduced to handful of approved instructions for institutional cooking in restricted spaces. The fire department recommends eliminating paper storage near cooking area. Brenda continued. "These old books are the first thing that ignites during kitchen emergencies. Stories like this remind us that clarity heals more than confrontation." Kitchen emergency that had never occurred in 46 years of daily cooking, using these same methods in this same space with the same careful attention my grandmother taught me. "I've never had kitchen fires," I protested. "Never had accidents or safety problems. This book has guided me through thousands of successful meals, but accidents happen to everyone eventually," Brenda replied, "especially older people who might not notice smoke or flames as quickly as before." Older people, as if age automatically meant incompetent rather than experience, as if decades of practice made me less capable instead of more skilled. That night I sat alone at my kitchen table, holding my grandmother's book, feeling the weight of 46 years of family meals, and wondering if this was the last time I'd cook in my own kitchen. Tomorrow I would show them what they'd missed in their rush to eliminate fire hazard, what my grandmother had hidden between those yellowed pages. The next morning brought Brenda's return with professional organizers to help pack your recipe collection for donation to safer facilities where my grandmother's carefully written instructions would become historical artifact rather than living guidance for family meals made with love. "We'll start with the fire hazards," she announced. "Get these old books out of the kitchen, then organize everything else around modern safety standards." That's when I decided the time had come to reveal what Brenda had overlooked completely. In her rush to eliminate dangerous paper storage, calm truth cuts deeper than loud accusation. "Before anyone packs anything," I said, "I need to show you something about this book that might change your entire perspective." I opened my grandmother's recipe book carefully and began removing items that had been tucked between certain pages for decades of safekeeping. "This isn't just a recipe collection," I explained. "My grandmother used it as a family safe, hidden in plain sight, where it would be protected and preserved. Between the pages of her famous apple pie recipe lay documents that changed everything about our family's financial situation. Some distances heal more than apology. Property deeds showing substantial land ownership, stock certificates that had multiplied in value over the decade, life insurance policy that had matured beyond original expectation, fire hazard," I continued quietly, "that protected our family's most important papers for over 40 years. But there were more surprises hidden throughout the book. Between recipe pages, my grandmother had tucked birth certificates, marriage licenses, immigration documents that proved our family's legal standing and heritage claim. She knew this book would be treasured," I explained, "would be used daily and protected carefully. She made it our family filing system, hidden where only family members would think to look." Daniel arrived as I was, showing the final document, bank account information that revealed substantial savings my grandmother had accumulated through careful planning and wise investments. "This is all real?" he asked, examining papers that changed everything about his understanding of our family's financial security. "Every document authentic, every investment verified, every dollar carefully protected and hidden," I replied. "Your great-grandmother understood the importance of safe storage in unexpected places." The professional organizer weren't needed anymore. The recipe book's true value lay in its dual purpose as cooking guide and family vault. This wasn't about fire safety or kitchen efficiency. This was about sophisticated planning by a woman who understood that beautiful things are protected and preserved. The silence that followed felt completely different from previous family discussions about safety. This time weighted with respect rather than concern about fire hazard. Brenda spoke first, her voice shaken. Catherine, I had no idea about any of this hidden documentation or your grandmother planning system. My grandmother never bragged about her financial wisdom. I replied gently. She believed important things should be protected quietly, where they'd be safe, but accessible to family. Who knew where to look? Daniel examined the document, understanding finally dawning about his great-grandmother's sophisticated approach to asset protection and family security. She hid our inheritance in the recipe book? He asked, looking at the pages with new appreciation for their dual purpose. She knew cookbooks are treasured and used, protected from harm, and passed down through generations of women who understood their value. We spent the next hour talking honestly about family financial planning and the difference between kitchen safety concerns and actual asset management strategies. Brenda apologized for calling the book a fire hazard, for assuming my grandmother had been careless with important document or family planning. I can see now how brilliant this was, she said, not just as recipes, but as protection system. Your grandmother was much smarter than I ever imagined. Some objects hold memories, not value. We talked about going forward differently, about examining possession before making assumption, about respecting system that represent generational wisdom rather than simple fire hazard. I want to learn about the hiding places, Brenda said. Would you teach me which recipes hold, which types of documents, so I can help protect everything? And I want to document this system, Daniel added. Create backup record for future generations to understand and maintain properly. The recipe book returned to its honored place on my kitchen counter, no longer hiding secret, but protecting them openly for family members who finally understood its sophisticated purpose. Over the following months, our relationships improved like perfectly timed recipes. Brenda started visiting to learn cooking and document preservation rather than eliminate fire hazard. Christmas that year felt like true celebration. Brenda brought me archival storage supplies for protecting the document while keeping the book usable for cooking. Daniel's gift was a fireproof safe for backup copies of great-grandmother's important papers while keeping originals in their special places. If this story touched something familiar, may your next chapter be softer than the last. Your family treasures deserve protection, not elimination. Your methods of preservation should be honored, not questioned. Your knowledge of hidden family systems deserves respect and understanding. Real love supports different approaches to safety and security. Real care recognizes value beyond surface appearances. Real protection preserves wisdom rather than eliminating complexity. Age brings understanding of preservation methods that younger generation may not recognize but will appreciate when they inherit the results of careful planning. Sometimes the most valuable recipes cook up more than delicious meals. They preserve family futures in ingredient only love knows how to measure.